Alright, so all my settings are fine, everything's on normal. Today we are doing a weekly challenge from the Kerbal Space Program subreddit. This week it is Asymmetry Spaceplanes. So I have to take a spaceplane and do something with it, VTOL, so vertical takeoff and landing, without using any duplicate parts. So there's only one part of everything. You can see I've got a turbojet, I've got a Rapier, I've got an LVT-30 for lift, I've got a few different fuel tanks, I have an electrical generator, I've got two giant reaction wheels, the Mark II inline cockpit, and the RAM air intake, plus a big fat battery and some mismatched landing gear. There we go, action groups are awesome, we are off the ground and we're heading into space. I'm not too stable at this point, but that's what the big reaction wheels are for, and it's not actually that unbalanced. Once I turned that Rapier engine in a little bit towards the center of mass, so that it's pointing through the center of mass and not trying to torque my plane, it flies alright. So now that we're kind of up above the lowest of the low atmosphere, we're settling in and going for the ascent. So this week's challenge was normal mode is just to make it fly, hard mode is get it into space, and super mode is get it into orbit. I'm just going to go for hard mode. I spent a while on this. I could have made some improvements. I probably could have gone for a smaller plane. After I finished this up, I checked some other people's designs, and turns out smaller planes with just a Rapier engine did just fine. But I had a lot of fun making this thing, and it works. Now I have a little tiny engine there on the back. I don't know how much it helps, but I thought it was fun to be able to kick on one more little motor once we got into space. I did that after the turbojet came out so that hopefully I could somewhat balance the torque that was missing. It didn't make too much of a difference. I would actually probably end up testing this again. If I did, my bet is I could get higher without it. The weight at the bottom was probably not really worth it. It was very sensitive to any sort of inputs. I forgot to put on the fine controls, which you can do by hitting caps lock. That might have helped out a bit. But yeah, if I get it just slightly off of where it likes to settle, it would go kind of crazy. So there we are. That is all my fuel. We have a apoapse of 82,000 meters, which is well into space. We're just going to go ahead and time warp up there. And there we go. Challenge completed. So part of vertical takeoff and landing is landing. Nowhere in the official rules of this week's challenge did it say we had to land it. So I used all my fuel to get really high up there. If I would have left the apoapse somewhere at about 70,000 meters, I could have come down with a little bit more fuel and probably landed it. So rather than go through that whole thing again, I just decided I would use one of my earlier atmospheric tests and prove that this thing can land just fine. Now what I'm doing here is I am bleeding off all of my speed, or at least a whole lot of it, so that the rocket engine at the bottom doesn't have to do a ton of work. I don't want to waste too much fuel. Now I'm going for a water landing purely because that's where I was testing it, and I was like, alright, I am done with my flight. I'm going to land it, and I was over water. So this would have probably worked out a little better on land. So my landing gear could take the weight, or possibly the bell of the LVT-30. But you'll see, it goes alright here. Now we're down below 1,000 meters, and I am going to try and kill off the last of all of my velocity and come in nice and level. Alright, fire the engine, kill all of the vertical velocity. Still have a little bit of horizontal to take care of, but that goes away if I just pitch up a little bit. Alright, and now once I'm steady, I'm just going to go ahead and throttle down a little bit and lower myself back down to Kerbin. This is actually the first vertical landing I have ever done in Kerbal Space Program. I've known how, I've just never bothered to, you know, build a craft with it. So this week's challenge was fun for me. Just a little bit more. The reaction wheels are really helpful here. It might have been a little better to go for the LTV-45 swivel, but we're going to set it down and everything is going to remain mostly intact. So there we go. My plane can land. Alright, just a quick spiel. Go ahead, like, subscribe. I've got all sorts of other Kerbal videos, and I'm going back through all of these weekly challenges. So see you guys next time.